After studying this module, you would be able to learn about the key concepts of the behavioral paradigm, understand the counseling process of the behavioral approach, examine the counseling techniques and procedures involved, and evaluate the limitations and criticisms of behavioral counseling. Behavioral counseling, initiated during the 1950s and 1960s, presented a powerful challenge to the principles of psychoanalysis. Behavioral counseling focuses on observable behaviors rather than the unconscious, on the present rather than the past, and on short term treatment, clear goals, and rapid change had considerable appeal. During the past 50 years, behavioral counseling has continued to evolve and currently plays an important role in psychology, providing a variety of helpful strategies of use in a broad range of settings and with a diverse clientele. As its name implies, behavioral counseling focuses entirely on specific behaviors with the goal of changing or modifying that behavior. Health related behaviors such as smoking, obesity, and sedentary lifestyle have recently become the focus of increased interest because these unhealthy behaviors have been linked to illness and preventable deaths. Similarly, childhood behaviors such as bedwetting, tardiness, or poor sleep habits can become the focus of counseling attention. Adult behaviors such as speeding, drinking, phobias, etc., can be modified as well. In fact, almost any human behavior can be the subject of behavioral counseling. It has been referred to as the first wave, with cognitive behavioral counseling being the second wave. The third wave in behavioral counseling refers to the introduction of mindfulness and acceptance and commitment into the cognitive behavioral tradition.
Modern behavioral counseling is grounded on the scientific view of human that implies a systematic and structured approach to counseling. This view does not rest on a deterministic assumption that humans are a mere product of their socio-cultural conditioning. Rather, the current view is that the person is the producer and the product of his or her environment. Whereas radical behaviorists such as Skinner ruled out the possibility of self determination and freedom, the current trend is towards developing procedures that actually give control to clients and thus increase their range of freedom. Behavior modification aims to increase people's skills so that they have more options for responding by overcoming debilitating behaviors that restrict choices. People are freer to select from possibilities that were not available earlier. Thus, as behavior modification is typically applied, it will increase rather than stifle individual freedom. Basic characteristics and assumptions. Spiegler and Gurmont listed 7 recurrent themes that characterize behavioral counseling. Behavioral counseling is based on the principles and procedures of the scientific method. Experimentally derived principles of learning are systematically applied to help people change their maladaptive behaviors. Conclusions are based on what has been observed rather than on personal beliefs. The distinguishing characteristics of behavioral practitioners is their systematic adherence to specification and measurement. They state treatment goals in concrete and objective terms to make replication of their interventions possible. Throughout the course of counseling, they assess problem behaviors and the conditions that are maintaining them. Research methods are used to evaluate the effectiveness of both assessment and treatment procedures. Thus, behavioral concepts and procedures are stated explicitly, tested empirically, and revised continually. Behavioral counseling deals with the client's current problems and the factors influencing them, as opposed to historical determinants. Counselors assume that a client's problems are influenced by the present conditions. They then use behavioral techniques to change the relevant current factors that are influencing the client's behaviors. In behavioral counseling, clients are expected to be active by engaging in specific actions to deal with their problems. Rather than simply talking about their condition, they do something to bring about change. They monitor their behaviors both during and outside the counseling sessions, learn and practice coping skills, and role play new behavior. Behavioral counseling is generally carried out in the client's natural environment as much as possible. The approach is largely educational in that learning is viewed as being at the core of counseling. It emphasizes teaching clients skills of self management with the expectation that they will be responsible for transferring what they learn in the counselor's room to their everyday lives. Homework assignments are an integral part of behavioral counseling. Behavioral counseling emphasizes a self control approach. This can be achieved with the help of certain scientific methods and learning principles or techniques that make the task easy. Counselors frequently train clients to initiate, conduct, and evaluate their own counseling. Clients are empowered through this process of being responsible for their changes. Behavioral procedures are tailored to fit the unique needs of each client. Several counseling techniques may be used to treat an individual client's problems. An important question that serves as a guide for this choice is: what treatment, by whom, is the most effective for this individual with that specific problem and under which set of circumstances? The practice of behavioral counseling is based on a collaborative partnership between the counselor and client, and every attempt is made to inform clients about the nature and the course of treatment. The actions are planned and the contracts are signed. These assumptions represent a basis for unity within the heterogeneity of the behavioral techniques. In addition, the behavioral techniques have these characteristics in common. Behavioral counseling moves from the simple to the complex, from easier to harder, and from less threatening to more threatening. The behavioral approach is relatively brief, often involving relatively fewer counseling sessions and less overall time than many other approaches to counseling. Several behavioral techniques are often combined in treatment in an attempt to increase the effectiveness of counseling. The counseling process in the behavioral approach. Counseling goals. Goals occupy a place of central importance in behavioral counseling. The general goal is to create new conditions for learning on the assumption that learning can ameliorate problem behaviors. The client usually formulates the goals, which are specifically designed at the outset of the counseling process. Continual assessment throughout counseling determines the degree to which these goals are being met. Assessment and treatment occur together. Contemporary behavioral counseling stresses clients' active role in deciding about their treatment. The counselor assists clients in formulating goals that are specific, unambiguous, and measurable. A number of characteristics of behavioral counseling ensure that the rights of clients are protected. These include the detailed specification of goals and target behaviors, a reliance on empirically tested procedures, the brief nature of treatment, and the collaborative relationship between the client and the counselor. The goals of counseling must be refined to the point that they are clear, concrete, understood, and agreed on by the client and the counselor. This process of determining counseling goals entails a negotiation between client and the counselor, which results in a contract that guides the course of counseling. Behavioral counselors and clients alter goals throughout the counseling process as needed. The sequence of selecting and defining goals is described by Cormier and Cormier. This process demonstrates the essential nature of a collaborative relationship. The counselor provides a rationale for goals, explaining the role of goals in counseling, the purpose of goals, and the client's participation in the goal setting process. The client specifies the positive changes he or she wants from counseling. Focus is on what the client wants to do rather than on what the client does not want to do. The client and the counselor determine whether the stated goals are changes owned by the client. Together, the client and the counselor explore whether the goals are realistic. The cost benefit effect of all identified goals are explored, with counselor and client discussing the possible advantages and disadvantages of the goals. Client and counselor then decide to continue seeking the stated goals, to reconsider the client's goals, or to seek a referral. Once goals have been agreed upon, a process of defining them begins. The counselor and the client discuss the behaviors associated with the goals, the circumstances required for change, the nature of sub goals, and a plan of action to work towards these goals. Counselors' functions and roles. Behaviorally oriented practitioners pay attention to the clues given by clients and they are willing to follow their counseling experience. They use some techniques common to the other approaches, such as summarizing, reflection, clarification, and open ended questioning. But other functions distinguish behavioral counselor from their counterparts. For example, behavioral counselors systematically attempt to get information about situational antecedents, the dimensions of the problem behavior, and the consequences of the problem, clarify the client's problems, design a target behavior, formulate the goals for counseling, identify the maintaining conditions, implement a change plan, evaluate the success of the change plan, conduct follow up assessments. One of the unique contributions of behavioral counseling is that it provides the counselor with a well defined system of procedures to employ within the context of a well defined role. It also provides the client with a clear role and it stresses the importance of client awareness and participation in the counseling process. Behavioral counseling is characterized by an active role for both the counselor and the client. A large part of the counselor's role is to teach concrete skills through role playing, modeling, behavioral rehearsal, and feedback. Likewise, the client engages in modeling, role playing, rehearsal, and other active behaviors as a part of counseling and generally receives active homework assignments such as self monitoring of problem behaviors to complete between counseling sessions. Clients must be motivated to change and must be willing to cooperate in carrying out counseling activities both during counseling sessions and in everyday life. If clients are not involved in this way, the chances are slim that counseling will be successful. Clients are encouraged to experiment for the purpose of enlarging their repertoire of adaptive behaviors. They are helped to generalize and to transfer the learning acquired within the counseling situation to situations outside counseling. Counseling is incomplete unless actions follow verbalizations. Indeed, it is only when the transfer of changes is made from the sessions to everyday life and when the effects of counseling are extended beyond termination that counseling can be considered successful. It is clear that clients are expected to do more than merely gather insights. They need to be willing to make changes and continue implementing new behaviors once formal treatment has ended. Some clinical and research evidence suggests that a counseling relationship, even in the context of a behavioral orientation, can contribute significantly to the process of behavior change. A good counseling relationship increases the chances that the client will be receptive to counseling. Not only is it important that the client cooperate with counseling procedures, but the client's positive expectations and hope for success about the effectiveness of counseling often contribute to successful outcomes. The skilled behavior counselor conceptualizes problems behaviorally and makes use of the client counselor relationship in facilitating change. Most behavioral practitioners do not assign an all important role to relationship variables. Instead, they contend that factors such as warmth, empathy, authenticity, permissiveness, and acceptance are necessary but not sufficient for behavioral change to occur. The client counselor relationship is a foundation on which counseling strategies are built to help clients change in the direction they wish. Lazarus maintains that unless clients respect their counselor, it will be difficult to develop the trust necessary for clients to engage in significant self disclosure. But, he adds, counselors need an array of counseling skills and techniques to employ once an effective client counselor relationship has been established. Behavior counselors tend to be active and directive and to function as consultants and problem solvers because they use a coping model in instigating behavioral change in the client's natural environment. It is important that they be personally supportive. Planning and implementing behavior change. Helping people change behaviors involves a series of steps that can, of course, be adopted to meet the needs of a particular person or problem. These steps are reviewed here, illustrating them with the example of a case Mr. Y, whose supervisor reprimanded him for getting to work late. By learning and reviewing these steps, readers can both incorporate them into their work and apply to themselves. These steps facilitate change in a variety of undesirable behaviors, including overeating, substance misuse, poor time management, unsatisfactory performance at work or school, inappropriate expressions of anger, children's misbehavior, insufficient exercise, smoking, unwanted personal habits such as nail biting, and deficiencies in social skills. Step 1. Describing the behavior. The first step in changing actions is describing the target behavior in specific and measurable terms. Both the undesirable behavior and the desirable changes should be specified. Mr. Y's presenting concern was arriving late to work. First, the undesirable behavior was explored in detail. Mr. Y worked full time and had a wife and 3 children. His days were full and demanding. Because he had little time to unwind, Mr. Y would stay up until about 2 a.m. watching television so that he could have some time to himself. In the morning, he was tired and had difficulty rising early enough to help his wife get the children ready for school. As a result, mornings were usually very hectic. The children sometimes missed the school bus, requiring Mr. Y to drive them to school. Even when the children caught the bus, Mr. Y was usually at least 30 minutes late to work. Obtaining a full description of the undesirable behaviors made it clear that Mr. Y's lateness was a complicated situation with many contributing factors. Mr. Y excused his lateness by explaining that he often worked through his lunch hour and stayed late at work. However, he recognized that his job description stated his working hours as 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. and that he was not adhering to these hours. The desirable changes he sought was clear: arriving at time on work on a regular basis. He also hoped to better manage the needs of his family while having more time for himself. Step 2. Establishing a baseline. Once the problem behaviors have been clearly described, a baseline can be obtained, reflecting the severity and the frequency of the behaviors at the inception of counseling. To determine the baseline, client and counselor must agree on the following: ways to measure the behavior. The two most common dimensions for measuring behavior are frequency, like how many glasses of wine a person drinks daily, how many times in an hour a child got out of a seat at school, how many times a week a man yelled at his wife, and severity, like how late the homework assignment was, how much damage was caused by the nail biting, how much clutter resulted from the person's hoarding behavior. Describing the behavior in clear and specific terms facilitates its measurement. For example, the problem of a messy house is difficult to assess unless it is described as including a floor piled with clothes, 6 boxes that remain unpacked, and a mildewed shower. Ways to record the measurement. People in treatment generally keep a record of their behaviors. Mr. Y used his date book to record his schedule for 5 days. He listed the times when the alarm went off, when he got out of bed, when he arrived at work, when he left work, and when he went to bed. For each day, he also wrote a brief description of what he did between rising and arriving at work. In his next session, Mr. Y reviewed his records with the counselor. He set his alarm for 6 a.m. each morning, but he rarely arose before 6:30. He was 30 to 45 minutes late to work each day, twice because he had to drive his children to school, once because he was delayed by his daughter who had misplaced her homework, once because the dog required attention, and once because Mr. Y slept until 7 a.m. He left work before 6 and 6:30. 4 out of 5 nights he watched television until nearly 2 a.m. Step 3. Determining goals. Goals should be meaningful, clear, specific, measurable, and achievable. They should be logical outgrowths of the baseline information. Both counselor and client should understand and have a record of the goals, and both should agree that the client could accomplish the goals without extreme difficulty. Success in reaching goals is reinforcing and encourages people to tackle more challenging goals, but failure to achieve goals can be discouraging, leading people to doubt themselves and their abilities. Consequently, goals should be designed to facilitate accomplishment rather than frustration. Although Mr. Y was eager to make changes so that he could get to work on time each day, the complexity of the problem, as well as its severity, as reflected by the baseline, suggested that goals should be approached gradually and incrementally. Mr. Y established an initial goal of getting to work by 9 a.m. at least once during the next week and getting to bed by 1 a.m. at least 3 times during the week. In this case, some other specific sub-goals need to be set. For example, ensuring the backpacks of children before going to bed by children, sleeping a little early, maybe half an hour early this week and an hour early by next week, and the like. Step 4. Developing strategies. The next step in the process of changing behavior is identifying strategies to help people achieve their goals. Because the next module reviews many specific strategies, it will not be repeated here. However, counselors should consider several categories of strategies when helping people move towards their goals. Skill development and education. People often need to develop new skills and learn new information to help them change problem behaviors. These might include assertiveness and communication skills, parenting skills, time management, decision making, and others. Impulse control. Problems with impulse control are often a key element in undesirable behaviors. Mr. Y, for example, described himself as addicted to late night television and had difficulty curtailing that behavior. Teaching people impulse control strategies such as relaxation, distraction, and avoidance of triggers can facilitate change. Reinforcement. Reward can motivate people to change their goals, help them take pride in their accomplishments, and encourage them to take on more challenging goals. Rewards can be social, such as encouragement and compliments from friends and family. Intrinsic, such as the good feelings and improved health benefits a person experiences after losing weight or giving up smoking, or extrinsic, such as going out to dinner to celebrate purchasing a desired object. Extrinsic rewards can most easily be planned and controlled. They are most likely to be motivating if they are identified in advance and made contingent on the person's performance. As with goal setting, plans should be formulated so that the person is likely to receive a reward. Planning. Planning is almost always an essential element of behavioral change. Planning enables people to specify exactly how and when they will modify their behaviors and can help them anticipate and overcome obstacles to their efforts. Commitment. Counselors should help their clients invest themselves in the process of change and give it their best effort. Making a commitment to change as well as a public declaration of the intent to change encourages people to follow through on their plans. The resolve can be further solidified through a written contract with the counselor and by talking about their goals and plans with friends or family members who can give them support and encouragement. Having a partner in a behavior change program, perhaps a friend who also wants to stop smoking or exercise regularly, can be reinforcing. Mr. Y's strategies. Mr. Y and his counselor identified the following helpful strategies. 1. Skill development. Mr. Y had little knowledge of time management. Before he began his program of change, his counselor reviewed principles of time management with him and suggested a book he might read on the subject. Mr. Y also received information on the cumulative effects of inadequate sleep so that he could realize the part that fatigue played in his difficulties. 2. Impulse control. Mr. Y needed help in controlling his impulse to watch television. He reported that he typically drowsed in front of the television and lost track of time. He decided to set a timer to go off at 12:30 a.m., reminding him that it was time to shut off the television and get ready for bed. 3. Planning. Planning was important in helping Mr. Y change his behavior. He determined that he needed to arise by 6:15 a.m. to get work on time. He set two alarms, one next to the bed for 6 a.m. and one across the room for 6:15 a.m. This allowed him a few welcome minutes to gradually awaken but made it likely that he would get out of bed at 6:15 a.m. to shut off the second alarm. Although some of the morning crises at Mr. Y's house were unavoidable, some could be averted by careful planning. He and his wife agreed that before their children went to bed, they would organize their clothes, books, homework, and lunch money to streamline the morning routine. The two older children were asked to assume responsibility for setting the table and putting out the breakfast food. To help Mr. Y shift some of his relaxation time to an earlier hour, he and his wife agreed that they would alternative taking responsibility for the children each evening. While one person was in charge of baths and homework, the other had an hour of quiet time to relax, read, or watch television. 4. Reinforcement. Mr. Y expected to receive some automatic reinforcement for his behavioral change. He anticipated getting better evaluations from his supervisor, feeling more relaxed, and having a less hurried home environment. In addition, he decided that once during each week in which he achieved his goals, he and his wife would hire a sitter so they could go out for dinner. This extrinsic reinforcer enhanced Mr. Y's sense of relaxation and positive feelings about his family. 5. Commitment. Mr. Y and his counselor wrote up a contract, including goals and strategies. Mr. Y shared this with his wife and asked her to help with his change efforts. Step 5. Implementation. Once goals have been established and strategies determined, the plans for behavior change are implemented. People should keep a record of their progress as they did when determining the baseline of the undesirable behaviors. They also should make notes about anything that facilitates or hinders the implementation. Mr. Y found that he did well with the parts of his plan that were under his control but had difficulty persuading his children to help out in the morning and prepare for school the night before. He planned to ask the counselor for some help with this situation. At regular intervals, clients and counselor monitor progress to maintain and reinforce successes and address difficulties in the plan. Prolonged experiences of failure are demotivating and can thus harm the client. The targets are therefore set as simple and easy sub goals. Only after achieving one at a time, the efforts to achieve the next sub goals are begun. So, a constant and continuous assessment, along with the continuous encouragement by self and others, is required. When discussing the outcome of clients' behavior change plans, counselors should be encouraging and optimistic but not judgmental, critical, or blaming. People often do not fully achieve their goal. This should be viewed as an opportunity for learning and for refining the plan rather than as a failure. Rather than focusing on excuses and disappointments, counselor should help clients congratulate themselves on their efforts and any successes they had. The initial assessment of Mr. Y's effort indicated that he got to work on time 2 days out of 5 and was less than 30 minutes late on the other days. He arose by 6:15 a.m. every day and went to bed by 1 a.m. on 4 out of 5 nights. He felt that he could get to bed even earlier in the future without much difficulty. He had enjoyed the hour of quiet time in the evening, even though he and his wife implemented that change on only 2 evenings. The children made progress in organizing themselves but were reluctant to accept new responsibilities. Step 7, Reinforcement. As behavioral counseling techniques are based on learning principles, reinforcement as a tool to strengthen and maintain the new behaviors is an integral part of the process. Assuming rewards have been built into the change plan and some success has been achieved, people can now reward themselves. Counselor also can cautiously provide some social reinforcement, including praise, taking genuine pride in the client's achievements, congratulating clients on their efforts, and helping them to take pride in their accomplishments. However, counselors should place more emphasis on encouraging clients to praise themselves. Counselors who make positive as well as negative judgments of their clients risk imposing their values on clients and detract from clients' self direction and self esteem. Mr. Y experienced both intrinsic and extrinsic rewards for his efforts. When he reached his work in time, it was acknowledged by his colleagues and boss. This was a natural extrinsic reward, leading to other intrinsic reinforcements. He felt proud of his success and also felt less fatigued. In addition, his wife had complimented him for reducing some of the morning chaos. He hired a sitter and made dinner reservations so he and his wife could celebrate his success. This last stage of a behavioral change plan takes one of the three directions. Number one, if the plan had shortcomings and clients did not reach their goal, clients and counselor consider what revisions in goals and strategies are likely to lead to the greater success. Considerable attention may be paid to the strengths and weaknesses of the original plan to determine how it needs to be improved. 2. If the plan was successful but the client has additional goals or wants to build on the accomplishments of the initial plan, client and the counselor agree on new objectives and develop strategies to facilitate their accomplishments. 3. If clients are satisfied with their accomplishments, they work with their counselor to solidify those gains and prevent relapse. Strategies such as involvement in a peer support group, ongoing self monitoring, stress management, and periodic follow up sessions are common elements in a relapse prevention plan.
The summary of this module is as follows. Behavioral counseling refers to earning a better control to improve upon unwanted behaviors through counseling. The process of behavioral counseling has been described as well. The process is similar to other forms of counseling, and the essential skills are also required on the part of the counselor, with an additional knowledge about the learning principles that develop individual behavior and their application. The module also outlined a scientific process for planning and implementing behavior change, that is, describing the target behavior, establishing a baseline, setting clear and realistic goals, developing helpful strategies, implementing the plan, assessing the outcome, and reinforcing and maintaining progress.